"Mom, why are there black SUVs outside our house?" Bella's voice trembled as she peeked through the blinds, heart pounding. Engines roared, doors slammed, and agents in dark suits swarmed her quiet street. Just hours ago, she had paid for an old man's groceries. Now the FBI was at her doorstep, and she didn't even understand why. The day had begun like any other. Rain clouds rolling across Washington, D.C., the kind of drizzle that made sidewalks slick and grey. Bella Jackson, 16, had trudged home from school with her backpack digging into her shoulders, hoodie damp from the weather. She was quiet, observant, the kind of teenager who often felt overlooked even inside her own home. Life in the city always carried noise, sirens in the distance, buses sighing at stops, chatter from corner stores, but her block in Brooklyn usually felt calm. Families barbecued in summer, kids rode bikes past row houses, neighbors waved across porches. Nothing about this ordinary Thursday hinted that her world was about to tilt upside down. At the same moment across town, William Morrison shuffled down a fluorescent-lit grocery aisle in a Safeway. His coat was worn thin, his shoes unevenly scuffed. A man who once commanded respect now looked like any other retiree struggling to make ends meet. He moved slowly, hesitating before items on the shelf as though calculating not price but consequence. Few noticed him, and those who did simply saw an elderly figure with tired eyes. Yet behind those eyes lay secrets sealed for decades. Bella didn't know him yet. She didn't know that their paths were inching toward collision inside that store, or that her simple decision that afternoon would echo far beyond her own family's front door. Back home, she dropped her bag by the stairs, changed into a sweatshirt, and sighed at the sound of her younger brother gaming loudly in the next room. She wanted something different, something meaningful, though she couldn't have explained what that meant. For now, it was just homework, scrolling through her phone and trying to ignore the heaviness that sometimes settled on her chest when she thought about her future. William, meanwhile, stood at the checkout line clutching a basket with only a few essentials: milk, bread, canned soup. The cashier scanned the items, announced the total, and he froze. His hand trembled as he fumbled through his wallet. Empty. A flush of shame spread across his weathered face. The people in line shifted impatiently, eyes flicking with judgment. Bella, stepping into the store minutes later, caught the scene out of the corner of her eye. She'd come in only to grab cereal, but something about the man's expression stopped her cold. His posture radiated quiet desperation, like someone carrying more than just hunger. In that moment, their two worlds touched. She stepped forward. "It's okay," she murmured, sliding her own crumpled bills across the counter. The cashier hesitated, then rang the items through. William looked up, startled, lips parting as if to protest, but Bella offered a small, almost embarrassed smile. "It's nothing," she said quickly. Really. For her, it was nothing, a simple kindness. But for him, it was everything. Neither knew that by evening engines would rumble outside her home, tires splashing through rain, men in suits demanding answers she didn't have. The store's hum continued as Bella gathered her own cereal box, but her thoughts kept circling back to the old man. He stood there in the drizzle outside, clutching his bag like it contained more than bread and soup. His eyes, deep-set and shadowed, met hers once more through the glass door. For a second she wondered if she'd crossed a line, embarrassed him somehow, but then he gave a nod, a quiet acknowledgement that carried weight far beyond a thank you. She pulled her hoodie tighter, stepping into the damp air. Washington streets glistened beneath the downpour, headlights bouncing off puddles. She didn't even notice the dark sedan parked half a block away, its engine idling, windshield wipers swiping rhythmically. Two men inside tracked the old man's every step. William walked slowly, head bowed. Each raindrop seemed heavier on his shoulders, as though he carried storms far older than the one soaking the city. He disappeared around a corner, and Bella thought that was the end of it. A girl helping a stranger, nothing more. But fate has a way of turning ordinary gestures into crossroads. Back at home, Bella scrolled through her phone, texting her best friend about homework and the latest trending video. She replayed the moment in her head, almost forgetting it as the night settled in. The smell of her mother's cooking drifted through the house. her brother still shouting at his game console. Normalcy wrapped around her like a blanket. Then came the sound. Engines, low, powerful, insistent. At first she assumed a neighbor had visitors, but the noise grew louder, closer. Her chest tightened. She crossed to the window. Headlights cut through sheets of rain, illuminating 4 massive black SUVs crawling into her quiet street. Doors clicked open in unison, and shadows emerged, figures in suits moving with purpose, urgency, and authority. Her pulse hammered. This wasn't random, this was something else. "Mom," her voice cracked as she turned. "Why are there black SUVs outside our house?" Her mother frowned, drying her hands on a dish towel, moving quickly toward the window. The sight drained the color from her face. "Stay back," she whispered sharply, though her voice shook. A knock thundered at the door, shaking the frame. Bella's knees weakened. The image of the old man flashed through her mind, his trembling hands, his searching eyes. What had she stumbled into? Another knock, this one louder. "Federal agents!" a voice barked. Silence gripped the Jackson household. Bella's brother muted his game, confusion etched on his face. Her mother drew in a shaky breath. Bella's heart screamed questions her lips couldn't form. That afternoon, she had believed kindness was simple. Pay for groceries, walk away. No consequences. But as the storm raged outside and federal boots pounded her front steps, she realized her life had just veered into unknown territory. And right here, pause for a second. Think about Bella, just 16, terrified, staring at agents through a rainy window because of one small act of kindness. If you're watching this and haven't hit subscribe yet, ask yourself, why hold back? Stories like this deserve to be heard, and every click of that button keeps them alive. Don't just watch, stand with Bella. Back inside the house, the pounding grew harder. Her mother swallowed, steadied herself, and reached for the lock. Bella clutched the hem of her sweatshirt, trembling as questions burned inside her mind. Who was that man? Why had the government followed him to their door? The moment the door cracked open, rain and light spilled in, silhouetting men whose eyes revealed nothing. One stepped forward, voice clipped sharp. "Where is William Morrison?" Bella's breath caught. The name meant nothing to her, yet she knew instantly it belonged to the man she had helped. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one now crashing inside her chest. The name echoed inside Bella's skull, William Morrison. She swallowed hard, glancing at her mother, hoping for some explanation. But her mother's face revealed nothing except shock, eyes wide, lips pressed into a trembling line. "We don't know anyone by that name," her mother said firmly, though her voice wavered at the edges. She tried to stand tall, shielding her children with her presence. The lead agent leaned forward, rain dripping from his jacket. His expression carried years of practiced scrutiny, a look designed to pierce through lies. "Then why did he leave the Safeway with your daughter this afternoon?" Bella's chest tightened. No, that's not what happened. I just paid for his groceries. That's all." Her words tumbled out in a rush, desperate and defensive. The agent studied her carefully, eyes narrowing. "You're telling me a man presumed dead for over a decade suddenly appears, and it's just a coincidence that a teenager from this address helps him at the checkout?" Her knees threatened to give out. Presumed dead? She replayed the man's weary eyes, his shaking hands, the nod of gratitude. Nothing about him had suggested danger. He had seemed invisible, almost forgotten by the world. Her brother, still clutching his game controller, muttered under his breath, "This is insane." The agent stepped inside, uninvited but commanding authority. Their presence filled the small living room, heavy boots creaking against the old hardwood floor. The storm outside rattled the windows, lightning flashing in brief, blinding bursts. "We need to know exactly what he said to you," another agent demanded. Bella shook her head quickly. "Nothing. He didn't say anything. I swear." Her voice cracked, betraying the fear she fought to suppress. Her mother touched her shoulder, steadying her. "She told you the truth, he said nothing." My daughter is not part of whatever you're chasing." The lead agent pulled out a photo, sliding it across the table. A younger version of the man stared back, sharper jawline, cleaner suit, eyes focused with intensity. The contrast to the frail figure in the grocery store sent shivers crawling up Bella's spine. "This is William Morrison," the agent explained. "Former intelligence operative, declared deceased in 2009. Until today we had no leads, and now—" his gaze landed on Bella. "He resurfaces because of you." Her breath caught. "Why me? I don't even know him." No one answered immediately. Silence pressed down heavier than the rain. Her mother broke it, voice sharp with anger. "If you think a 16-year-old orchestrated this, you've lost your minds. She's a child who tried to help someone." The agent didn't flinch. Help can sometimes be more dangerous than harm. The words stung. Bella blinked back tears. Her kindness, the one thing that had made her feel useful, human, good, was now being twisted into suspicion. They questioned her for what felt like hours. Every detail of the grocery line, every glance exchanged, every movement replayed under fluorescent light and federal scrutiny. But Bella had nothing else to give. No secret message, no hidden code. Just coins, bills, and a gesture she thought was ordinary. Finally, the agents exchanged glances, tension thick as fog. One spoke quietly into a radio, his words swallowed by static. Another remained at the door, scanning the dark street outside. Bella sat rigid on the couch, hands locked together so tightly her knuckles burned white. Her heart screamed for this to end, for normal life to return, for the storm outside and inside to pass. But deep inside, a seed of doubt had taken root. Who was William Morrison? And why did fate tie him to her? The agents left as abruptly as they had entered, promising follow-up questions. Their departure left silence almost unbearable. Bella's mother locked the door, leaning against it with a heavy exhale. Her brother broke the quiet. "This is messed up." Bella stared at the rain sliding down the glass, replaying the man's frail nod in the store. What if he wasn't just a stranger? What if helping him meant stepping into something bigger than she could comprehend? Resistance had given her nothing but questions, and answers were coming whether she wanted them or not. Morning crept in reluctantly, washing the Jackson home in pale light after a sleepless night. The storm had passed, but unease clung to the air. Bella dragged herself from bed, eyes heavy, stomach hollow. She heard her mother murmuring into the phone downstairs, her tone hushed, urgent, careful. Every word made Bella's chest tighten. By mid-afternoon, news had spread online. Bella scrolled through her phone, heart racing as headlines flashed. Former federal operative spotted alive in Washington. The photo alongside the article was grainy but unmistakable. The man she had helped, William Morrison. The world thought him dead, and somehow her small act had placed him back under the spotlight. Her friends texted, demanding explanations. She ignored them, shoving her phone aside. Her life had shifted overnight, and she couldn't explain it even to herself. A sudden knock jolted her. She froze, breath catching. Not again. Her mother hurried to the door, peering through the peephole. Then she whispered, "Bella, it's him." Her pulse thundered. She hurried forward, disbelief locking her steps. And there he stood, William, soaked in rain, his frail frame shaking. His eyes darted behind him as though shadows chased his every move. "You shouldn't be here," Bella's mother hissed, pulling the door half closed. "Agents swarmed this house last night." "I know," William rasped, his voice hoarse yet steady. "But I had nowhere else. They'll track me no matter where I run. I need help." His gaze fell on Bella. From her. Bella's stomach flipped. "Me? Why me?" His expression softened, a weary smile tugging at his lips. "Because you saw me when no one else did. You reminded me I was still human." Her mother shook her head firmly. "No, absolutely not. You can't drag my daughter into this." But William's words lingered, heavy and unshakable. Bella's chest burned with conflicting emotions: fear, guilt, curiosity. She should slam the door, demand he leave. Yet something deeper pulled her closer. Against better judgment, her mother allowed him inside just for a moment. Rainwater dripped from his coat onto the worn rug. He lowered himself carefully into the nearest chair, wincing as though every joint carried a lifetime of pain. Bella studied him closely now, the wrinkles etched deeper than age, the scars hidden beneath his sleeve, the haunted glimmer in his eyes. He wasn't just an old man, he was someone carrying secrets too heavy for one soul alone. "What do they want from you?" she whispered. William's jaw tightened. The truth. But truth can destroy just as easily as lies. Her mother crossed her arms, unwilling to yield. "You can't stay here. My children won't be pulled into federal games." "I understand," William replied softly. "But whether you like it or not, the moment Bella helped me, she became part of this." The words chilled her. She wanted to scream that it wasn't fair, that she hadn't asked for any of this. Yet her gut told her he was right. His appearance at their door meant the line between her world and his had already blurred. Hours stretched painfully slow. Agents drove past again, black vehicles crawling like predators searching prey. Bella pressed her forehead against the cool glass, watching taillights vanish down the block. She felt like a prisoner inside her own house. Later that evening, she overheard William speaking in low tones to her mother. "I didn't mean to bring danger here, but if she hadn't helped me, I might have disappeared forever. They want me silenced. She gave me reason to fight again." Bella's breath caught. Reason to fight? She thought of that single nod outside Safeway, how small it had seemed. Could her kindness have truly been enough to shift the course of a man's life? And now, forced under the same roof, she couldn't run from him. She didn't trust him fully, but she couldn't ignore him either. Their fates had entwined, whether by accident or design. That night, lying awake, Bella stared at the ceiling, torn between dread and something she couldn't name. Fear still pressed heavy, but beneath it stirred the faintest flicker of connection, a thread binding her to William Morrison, one that neither of them could cut. Rain had dried from the streets, leaving the city washed clean, but inside Bella's house tension clung like fog. William sat at the dining table, posture heavy, fingers tracing the rim of a chipped mug her mother had reluctantly placed before him. He looked like he wanted to speak, but wrestled with the weight of every word. Bella leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. She didn't trust him, yet something about his silence made her ache with curiosity. Finally, she stepped closer. "Why are they after you?" Her voice carried both fear and defiance. "Why do they care about some old man who can't even buy his own food?" William flinched, then gave a dry, humorless chuckle. "Because I wasn't always some old man." His gaze locked on hers. "Once I carried secrets heavier than any weapon, and those secrets never died even when the world believed I had." He reached into his coat pocket and slid something across the table, a faded photograph. Bella picked it up, breath catching. A younger William stood in the picture, suited, confident, with a woman and a small child beside him. "That was my family," he murmured, voice breaking. "I buried them in silence. Not literally, but the life we had vanished when I took assignments no father should ever take. Intelligence work isn't just gathering files. It's shadows swallowing everything you love." Bella stared at the child in the picture, a boy barely older than her brother. Her chest tightened. What happened to them? William's jaw flexed. His hand trembled slightly. "They paid the price for my choices. I was sent overseas. By the time I returned, they were gone. My son never forgave me. My wife, she couldn't. I walked away from everything. The agency declared me dead because it was easier than admitting they'd lost control of their own." The words sank into Bella like stones dropped in water, rippling through her. For the first time, she saw more than an old man chased by agents. She saw grief wrapped around him like a second skin. Her mother, standing nearby, softened just slightly. She still didn't trust him, but even she couldn't deny the raw pain in his voice. "Why now?" Bella whispered. "Why come back?" William's eyes glistened under the dim kitchen light. Because when you handed that cashier your crumpled bills, you reminded me what humanity looks like. Do you know how many years I've lived invisible waiting for nothing? And then a stranger looks at me, not with suspicion, not with pity, but with kindness. It pulled me back into the light, maybe for the first time in decades. Bella's throat tightened. Her hand brushed the edge of the photo as though touching the boy in it might anchor her to something real. And honestly, if you've been moved even a little by William's confession, ask yourself this: why are you watching without subscribing? Bella's story is still unfolding, and every subscription means this journey doesn't vanish into the shadows like his life once did. Don't just witness her courage, stand beside her. Click subscribe now before you lose your chance to say you were here when it mattered. William leaned back, exhausted, yet his eyes carried a faint spark. They'll come again. They won't stop. But now at least I won't fade quietly. Not after you. Bella felt her chest twist. She wanted to scream that she hadn't asked for any of this, that she didn't want federal agents circling her home, that she didn't want to be tethered to a man whose very existence spelled danger. But another part of her, a part she couldn't silence, felt honored, almost chosen. The quiet stretched, broken only by the hum of the refrigerator and her brother's faint footsteps upstairs. For the first time since the storm began, Bella realized she wasn't just afraid anymore. She was invested. The Jackson house felt strangely quiet the following evening. Agents hadn't returned, though their presence loomed in every shadow outside. Bella found herself drifting into the kitchen, where William sat again, hunched over tea her mother had reluctantly offered. His fingers wrapped around the mug, as though holding warmth for the first time in years. Bella slid into the chair across from him. Neither spoke for a long while. Rain tapped lightly at the window, softer now, as if the city itself was exhaling after days of chaos. Finally she asked, "What's it like, carrying all that alone?" William's lips curved into a faint, sad smile. Lonely, like walking through crowds but never being seen, like breathing but never truly living, until someone pays for your bread and soup. The words pulled a quiet laugh from Bella, unexpected, light, genuine. "You make it sound like I did something huge. It was a couple of dollars." "To you, maybe," William replied gently. "To me, it was a reminder I still existed, that I was still worth noticing. You don't realize how powerful small mercies can be until they're all you have." Bella glanced down at her hands, cheeks warming. She wasn't used to being told she mattered. At school, she blended into corners, more shadow than center stage. Teachers rarely remembered her name, friends often forgot her birthday, yet here was a man, a ghost from history, telling her she had altered his course. "You sound like my grandfather," she admitted softly. "He used to say kindness is the only thing that keeps the world from falling apart." William's eyes brightened at that, glistening with something fragile. "Your grandfather was a wise man." Silence settled again, but not uncomfortable, the kind of silence where two people shared space and for once didn't need to fill it with words. Later that night, Bella pulled out her sketchbook, something she hadn't touched in months. She began sketching the photograph William had shown her, the boy with wide eyes, the woman with soft curls, William's younger self standing straighter. She worked quietly under the glow of her desk lamp, the pencil moving almost on its own. When she showed him the drawing the next morning, his breath hitched. "I haven't seen them like that in years." His voice cracked, raw with gratitude. "You've given me back something I thought time had stolen." For the first time, Bella saw him not as a fugitive or an agent, but as a man, a father, a husband, a human being weighed down by choices. Her mother, watching from the kitchen doorway, didn't interrupt. She still distrusted William, but even she couldn't ignore the way her daughter's eyes softened, the way color returned to her cheeks when she spoke with him. As the day stretched on, Bella and William talked more, about music, about books, about the places in DC that carried memories for him and hopes for her. At one point he chuckled, remembering eating hot dogs near the Lincoln Memorial on his first date with his wife. Bella giggled at the image, teasing him about being old-school romantic. For a brief moment, laughter filled the Jackson home again. But beneath the fragile peace, an unspoken truth lingered. This connection, this warmth was temporary. The agents would return. The storm hadn't passed. Still, for now, Bella allowed herself to believe that perhaps she wasn't just a bystander in William's story. Perhaps she was part of his healing, and maybe, just maybe, he was part of hers. The fragile calm couldn't last. Late that night, a hard knock rattled the front door. Bella jolted awake, heart leaping to her throat. Her mother rushed down the hallway, whispering frantically for everyone to stay quiet. William sat frozen at the table, eyes narrowing like a soldier recognizing the rhythm of enemy footsteps. The door burst open before anyone could respond. Agents flooded the room, guns raised, voices booming commands. "Hands where we can see them! Nobody move!" Bella screamed, pressing herself against the wall as men in black stormed the living room. Her mother threw her arms around her son, shielding him. William stood tall, eyes blazing, yet he didn't resist as hands grabbed his shoulders and forced him down. "Stop!" Bella cried. "He hasn't done anything." An agent snapped back, "Stay out of this, kid. You don't know who he is." Another figure stepped forward, a woman in a dark coat, eyes sharp as glass. She held a folder and tossed it onto the table. Papers spilled across the wood. Reports, photographs, grainy surveillance images. William's face stared up from every page. "William Morrison," she said coldly, "former operative, disappeared after a mission went wrong. Classified information missing. We've been chasing you for years." Bella looked at William, her chest caving. "Is that true?" William's silence was answer enough. His jaw clenched, his gaze locked on the floor. Her heart splintered. She thought she'd seen the man behind the shadows, the father who had lost everything. But now the truth cut deeper. Maybe she had been nothing more than another cover, another shield for his secrets. "You used us," Bella whispered, her voice breaking. William lifted his head, pain etched in every line of his face. "No, Bella, listen." But she shook her head violently. Tears blurred her vision. "You let me believe you were just broken. But you're dangerous. You dragged us into this, into them." The agents shoved him toward the door. He didn't resist, but his eyes never left hers. Desperation leaked through his words. "I swear to you, I never meant for this. You were the only light I'd seen in years. Please, don't believe them. Believe me." Bella's chest ached, torn between fury and grief. She wanted to trust him, wanted to hold on to the fragile bond they had built, but the sight of armed men dragging him away drowned her in betrayal. "Stop talking," she cried out, covering her ears. The agents hauled him into the night. Engines roared to life, headlights slicing through the darkness as the SUVs sped away. The house, once filled with whispers of connection, now rang hollow with silence. Her mother tried to soothe her, but Bella pulled away, collapsing against the stairwell, shaking. Tears streaked her cheeks. All she could see was his face, pleading, broken, calling her his light. All she could hear were the agents' voices painting him as a traitor. Her mind screamed two truths that refused to align. He was a liar. He was also the only one who had ever made her feel seen. The contradiction crushed her chest until it hurt to breathe. Bella pressed her palms into her eyes, wishing she could erase the last few days, wishing she had never stepped into that grocery store, never opened her wallet, never met William Morrison. For the first time she questioned not only him, but herself. Was her kindness a mistake? The night dragged on without sleep. Bella sat curled in her bed, blanket wrapped tight, staring at the ceiling as if answers might etch themselves into the plaster. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw William being shoved into black SUVs, his voice breaking as he called her his light. But then she saw the folder, the papers, the photographs, the undeniable proof of a life shrouded in deception. Her chest ached from the weight of both images clashing inside her. Downstairs, the house was silent, her mother pacing occasionally, her brother whispering questions no one could answer. Bella pressed her palms against her temples, whispering to herself, was it real, or was I just another assignment? Across the city, William sat in a stark interrogation room. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead, casting shadows across his lined face. His hands were cuffed, his body weary, but his eyes burned with a fire that hadn't died in decades. He thought of Bella, the way she had sketched his family, the laughter they'd shared over simple stories, the quiet faith she'd unknowingly given him. For years he had been content to vanish, to live invisible, but her kindness had ripped open a door he hadn't realized he still wanted to walk through. He closed his eyes and whispered to the silence, "Please don't let her hate me." Back at the Jackson house, dawn's light crept through thin curtains, painting the walls in muted gold. Bella dragged herself from bed, the weight of exhaustion pressing down on her shoulders. She wandered into the kitchen where her mother sat with untouched coffee. "Do you believe them?" Bella asked softly. Her mother's expression wavered. "I believe what I saw. Files don't lie." "But people do," Bella murmured. "And sometimes files are written to protect lies." Her mother sighed, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I want to keep you safe, Bella. That man, whatever he is, brought danger straight to our door." Bella's chest tightened. She wanted to agree, to let the fear wash away any lingering loyalty. Yet deep down, beneath the hurt, lived the memory of William's trembling gratitude, the softness in his voice when he spoke of his family, the way he looked at her as though she mattered. She pushed away from the table, pacing. "I don't know what's true anymore, but I know what I felt." Meanwhile, William faced his own reckoning. Agents hurled questions at him, accusations sharp as knives. He answered little, choosing silence over betrayal. Still, every time they pressed harder, Bella's face flickered in his mind. He wasn't protecting secrets for the agency anymore. He was protecting her. One agent slammed a file onto the table. "You ruined lives, Morrison, and now some teenager thinks you're some kind of hero. You dragged her into this mess. Do you feel proud?" William's jaw clenched. "No, I feel ashamed." His voice trembled but grew steadier. "But don't you dare tell me she isn't better than any of us sitting in this room. That girl has more courage in her heart than I ever carried in all my years serving." The agent sneered, but William leaned forward, fire returning to his eyes. "She reminded me I was still human. And that's why you'll never break me. Because no matter what you write in your reports, she knows I'm not the monster you want me to be." At home, Bella stood before the mirror in her room, her reflection pale, weary, uncertain. She touched the sketch she'd made of William's family, taped to the corner of her mirror. Her hand lingered there, trembling. Her voice cracked as she whispered to her reflection, "Do I trust him, or do I let him go?" Her heart pounded as though demanding an answer. One choice promised safety, the other promised truth. And as the sun climbed higher, Bella realized she couldn't
had to
avoid it
decide
forever.
whether to walk away or fight for the man whose life her kindness had pulled back into the light. The morning stretched heavy, but Bella's heart beat with clarity it hadn't carried the night before. She couldn't sit in silence while William's fate twisted in the hands of strangers. Grabbing her jacket, she whispered to her mother, "I have to go." Her mother's eyes brimmed with fear. "Bella, no. You don't understand the danger." "I understand enough," Bella interrupted, voice steadier than she felt. "If I walk away now, I'll regret it forever." Her mother didn't stop her this time. Downtown Washington buzzed with morning traffic, but Bella's world shrank to the cold stone walls of the federal building looming ahead. She marched past security checkpoints, determination blazing. When she demanded to see William Morrison, guards exchanged confused looks before one finally escorted her through sterile hallways. Inside a small room, William sat cuffed, head bowed, shoulders slumped. He looked older than she remembered, years heavier, as though the night had aged him decades. The moment their eyes met, his expression cracked. Relief flooded his face. "Bella!" She stepped forward, fists clenched. "I don't know what's true, and I don't care what their papers say. I just know you didn't deserve to be dragged out like a criminal. You're more than the mistakes you made." The agents in the corner shifted uncomfortably, but she didn't stop. "You told me once I reminded you of humanity. Well, you reminded me too, that even people who've lost everything can still matter. You're not invisible anymore, not to me." William's eyes shone with unshed tears. For the first time in years, hope sparked in his chest. The lead agent cleared his throat, tone sharp. "Miss Jackson, this isn't your concern." Bella turned on him, voice rising with courage she didn't know she possessed. "It became my concern the moment he walked into that grocery store with nothing but trembling hands and empty pockets. I paid for bread. I didn't know I was also paying for truth to come back into the light, and I won't let you bury him again." Silence filled the room. Even the agent seemed struck by the fire in her words. Hours later, after endless debate, William was released, not cleared, not free of shadows, but no longer a prisoner either. He stepped out into the DC air with Bella at his side. The city lights flickered above, cars roared past, life continued. But for them, everything had changed. They walked in silence until William finally spoke. "Why risk yourself for me?" Bella smiled faintly, though her voice wavered. "Because you risked something first. You let me see who you really were. That's more than most people ever do." William stopped, turning toward her. His hand trembled as he reached out, resting lightly on her shoulder. "You've given me something no mission, no agency, no government ever could. Redemption." Her chest swelled, tears pricking her eyes. "And you gave me something too. You saw me when no one else did." For a moment the world disappeared. Just an old man and a teenage girl, bound not by blood but by choice, by kindness, by the courage to believe in one another. And if you followed Bella's journey this far, ask yourself, why watch without subscribing? This isn't just a story, it's a reminder. One small act can change everything. Bella risked her safety to stand beside someone the world had forgotten. If you're here, if you felt this, don't just scroll away. Subscribe now, so you never miss the chance to stand with stories that prove kindness still matters. That evening, Bella sat on her porch as the sun dipped below the horizon. William rested beside her, quieter now but no longer invisible. The storm had passed, leaving scars, yes, but also light. As neighbors walked their dogs and children rode bikes down the street, Bella realized life had settled again, different yet stronger. She glanced at William and whispered, "Do you ever think maybe we were supposed to meet?" William smiled faintly, eyes glistening. No doubt about it. The girl who once thought kindness was just spare change had learned its true weight. The man who once thought he was already gone had found a reason to live again. And together, on that quiet Washington street, they both finally believed love, in all its unexpected forms, could still win.